from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Chasing a potential weather rally in grain markets and agribusiness, it's all about beans.
Everything is there for a much more dynamic bean market over the next 10 months.
Plus, a weed expert talks dicamba issues from Illinois and helping these pets recover from a devastating wildfire in Tennessee.
Ag Day, brought to you by the dependable, longest-lasting Chevy Silverado.
Good morning, I'm Clint Griffiths. Many of the major commodities clawing their way back into the green during Tuesday's trade following a strong showing to start the week. Soybeans trading up another nickel higher after nearly a 20-cent per bushel rally on Monday. USDA's National Crop Condition Report showing continued deterioration of beans across the country. From a historical perspective, soybean conditions are the lowest since 2015, and in Iowa, they're the lowest since 2013. Analysts in Chicago say summer weather is helping push those prices.
Overall, the futures market has rallied more than $1.30 after bottoming on June 23rd. I think you've got a combination of factors at play here. We've got some threatening weather forecasts here for a lot of the Corn Belt as we move toward the middle part of July. Hot and dry for the Western Corn Belt. I think the Eastern Corn Belt had some early season weather problems during planting. They were excessively wet. So we've got some crop problems here paired with a massive fund short. So that's why I think you've seen the sharp rally here.
Now, part of the reason for the soybean rally is the worsening crop condition. Monday's crop progress report showing a 2-point decline, 62% rated as good to excellent. Now, across the Midwest, we saw 3, 4, and 5-point drops in the condition rating. The exception, Minnesota, where the condition rating was 1 point higher. It's not just weather impacting crops this year. States in multiple parts of the country are reporting issues with drift and raising concerns about crop damage. Tyne Morgan stopped by farm fields in central Illinois for a visit with an expert. Tyne?
Thanks, Clinton. Here with Dr. Aaron Hager of the University of Illinois, a weed specialist. So, Dr. Hager, are we seeing injury from dicamba here in Illinois?
Without doubt we are. It's fairly widespread. There doesn't really appear to be any geographical area that's seen more response or less response than any of those.
Would you say it's from drift? Is it from volatility of the product? What's kind of causing this?
Well, certainly I think many of these instances without a doubt are caused by dicamba. Sometimes you'll walk out into a field and it's fairly evident that it's a physical drift that's taken place, but in other instances we're seeing fields where the entire field is affected, border to border, end row to end row, and there's really no distinctive drift pattern in the field, which suggests that there's been some movement into that area, perhaps through a process like volatilization from a field that was treated some distance away.
But if we do see some type of drift or volatility of the product, does the damage show up immediately?
It does not. It only shows up, exposure of dicamba symptoms usually only show up on the new growth of the soybean. And we've had instances where it may be as short as about 7 days after the exposure before these symptoms develop, but depending on environmental conditions, we've seen it actually go as long as 21 days between when the exposure actually took place and when the symptoms developed.
Do you think that dicamba-tolerant technology and non-dicamba-tolerant technology can coexist?
It's going to be very, very difficult in the future moving forward for these to coexist correctly unless we really take the applications very, very seriously and follow all the label guidelines on how to use these products and technologies. Soybean are very sensitive to dicamba, but it does not take very much exposure to see these symptoms develop.
And this is a conditional license on over-the-top use for these new dicamba formulations.
Yes, the U.S. EPA has said they will renew the label only if the instances of off-target movement or off-target damage are not what they term excessive. So it's in everybody's best interest to try to steward and use this technology the best way they can.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Hager. We appreciate it. We'll be following this more on Ag Day. Reporting from Champaign, Illinois, I'm Tyne Morgan.
Tyne says that Iowa is also having some issues with dicamba. A weed specialist in Iowa State says while there are only 8 official reported cases, the problem is widespread. Many farmers don't wish to report it to the state. Microsoft wants to get broadband internet access to rural America. An estimated 23 million Americans do not have high-speed internet. The company is calling for a combination of private and public investment to get about 2 million customers from farm country online within the next 5 years. They'll focus on these 12 states that are currently underserved. Microsoft says it could use unlicensed and unused airwaves on the TV spectrum, known as white spaces, to transmit wireless signals. Microsoft says it has teamed up with the National 4-H Council to help with computer literacy training in these states as well. Now, Now take a look at these fields in central Illinois. High winds and storms blowing this pollinating corn nearly flat. It knocked out power, down trees, and left widespread damage. The farmers here say winds like this during pollination, bad news. And while they know the corn will likely pop back up, they expect the top yield is gone. This area has seen about an inch of rain in the last week, but before that, it'd been more than a month and things were in desperate need of a drink. Mike Hoffman has more from the field in today's Crop Comments. Good morning, Mike.
Thanks, Clinton. Let's start off in north central Indiana. Jason Scott sending us this photo earlier in the week. He said the tornado wasn't the problem, though, for him. It was the flash flooding. Water is everywhere. So far, the area has seen 5 to 7 inches of rain and counting, and that's on top of multiple tornadoes. And down in the Lone Star State, Mike Lass sending us a picture of dryland cotton that's close to blooming. USDA says 51% of Texas cotton is rated good to excellent. And taking a look at the root zone moisture, boy, you can see some areas turn wet from Oklahoma into the Tennessee Valley. We'll take a closer look at this and have your forecast coming up. But first, here are some hometown temps.
Visit farmjournalpro.com. Trusted analysis, professional insight. farmjournalpro.com.
All right, when we come back, we'll look at Tuesday's trade, talk about why, despite the recent gains, beans have long legs when it comes to price. Plus, we'll find out what USDA is doing to help blueberry prices. And
I'm Charles Denny. Months after devastating fires in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, the University of Tennessee College of Veterinary Medicine helps injured pets heal. That story coming up on Ag Day.
Agribusiness Joe Vakovic takes us back to the floor of the CME for a closer look at Tuesday's trade. Joe?
Kind of an interesting day in the soybean market here on Tuesday. On Monday night, the market opened sharply higher following a bullish crop progress report from USDA. Early this morning, we had some rain systems pop up over Nebraska, parts of Iowa that were kind of unexpected, and as a result of that, the soybean market leaked lower and traded sharply lower at one point here on Tuesday morning. Late in the day, the market rallied back and ultimately finished the day higher, so kind of an interesting back and forth type trade here. Now moving forward, weather is going to be the name of the game. Weather and yield prospects, basically. What type of yield are traders working with? I think that they're starting to walk down their yield ideas here. The live cattle market was higher here on Tuesday. Futures market's been kind of back and forth here recently. You know, we posted some fresh 3-month lows last week, and we've seen a little bit of a rebound. Now, has anything changed here fundamentally? I don't know. The cash market's still been under quite a bit of pressure. The most recent cash trade last week was in the 117 to 118 range, and that's a far cry from the trade in the mid to upper 130s that we saw just 4 or 5 weeks ago. Again, Joe Vakovic from CME Group here in Chicago.
Andy Schisler, S&W Trading, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk. Andy, let's talk about the soybean market here. Kind of an interesting year considering where we sit and the condition of the crop and the size of this year and our carryover. What's your take on beans?
I think it's obviously early because they say that they're made in August, but I think we've put a couple nicks in the bean crop already. Sure. And mainly we planted in, I thought, awful conditions. And so didn't rain for a month after we planted them, and like our populations are poor in soybeans. It's like even my dad's like, I think our beans are worse than the corn. And I'm just like, all right. So I feel like we're probably not going to knock the bean yield out of the park because I feel like we just don't have the population. So we can have good August weather and it'll be fine. But I think to supersede yields like the last couple of years that we've been doing, I say good luck on that. So we didn't get more acres and we planted in cruddy conditions. So we didn't see much prevent plant. We just slammed them in. And so you've got the Western Belt where they've been continually hot and dry from Texas to North Dakota. Sure. So I feel like that's a couple 100 million bushels that are going to struggle and could come out of production out there. It's like even that one area is a problem, and if Illinois becomes a problem, I think you have a huge dynamic change in the bean market. And so like I think, you know, we could be looking, our use, I mean, we just killed it on use this year, domestic and in the export market. And like our stocks report kind of proved it. So I think we're looking for a couple bucks to the upside in soybeans, even from here over the next 10 months is what I think. And I think we'll end up heading closer to a 200 million bushel carryout, regardless when it's all said and done for next year. So I mean, I think it's all there, and everybody's really bearish beans, and I think people are committed to be short early and low in the market, and it takes like a long time for that cycle to develop, and I think we're exactly there again.
Yeah.
Because people have been squeezed with no profit on the farm, and it's like the first time they get it, you get a lot of people that are willing to be short. And so like I think everything's there for a much more dynamic bean market over the next 10 months.
Okay, so maybe not just right away, but you see a little longer view at this thing.
We could trade down 30 cents, up 60 next week, and I don't think it really matters. What I'm saying is long term, I think we're going to have a better market over the next 12 months, and I think we won't see our highs ultimately until a lot further out.
Okay.
And so I think we'll see good prices, and bean marketing I don't think will be that hard this year.
All right, well, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I think people like that. Andy, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For one-on-one marketing advice, call Andy Schisler with S&W Trading at 312-506-3888.
Get the roots your crops need by getting Radiate first. Visit lovelandproducts.com/radiate. See your CPS dealer today.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman looking at the root zone moisture map, and boy, you can see where it's wet, where it's not, and maybe some dynamic rains this week.
And even since this data has come out, we've probably seen changes to it just because of what's been going on. Some big complexes of storms. Like this pocket of dryness over Illinois and southeastern Iowa, it appears that in the past 24 hours, 36 hours, they've had a big complex of storms move through, which probably helped them. That didn't help central and northeastern Indiana, though, because they got more on top of being wet already. And look at that wet area from Tennessee back into Oklahoma that we've seen. Dryness over West Virginia into the northeastern portions of the state. You can see the far western plains, though, just a little bit on the dry side, not overly dry compared to what we've seen over the past couple of weeks. Here's the way the weather map looks right now. Most of the activity is going to be with these eastern two systems here. As this whole frontal system just kind of, the cold front will press south, the warm front will go slightly north, but it's basically that area along the I-80 corridor that appears to be under the gun to get a lot more moisture. Let's take a look at things as we head through the day today, and you can see a lot of the showers and thunderstorms appear to be going through the Great Lakes area as that system moves into the Detroit region by later on today. High pressure in the southeast will keep things tamped down, but you will see those pop-up showers and storms in the afternoon, both the next two afternoons. Same idea out west with that area of low pressure. That's typical for this time of the year. Heading through tonight, some complexes of storms between these two areas of low pressure will move a little bit farther south back into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. And then as we head through the day tomorrow, that will continue to move off to the east, and there will be some showers and thunderstorms more focused along this front back into portions of northern Missouri, Kansas, and even parts of Colorado. All right, let's take a look at precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours. Not a whole lot in the Gulf Coast region, but it's from the upper Great Lakes, western portions of the Great Lakes, all the way into the lower Great Lakes, adding in the next 36 hours. A lot of it goes through the southern portions of the Great Lakes, and then it shifts southward closer to the Ohio River Valley by the time the end of the 36-hour period is over. But that's a lot of rain, and in some of that area, they've already been very much on the wet side, so that's not good news. High temperatures this afternoon, lots of 90s, even a few 100s for the Central Plains into Texas. Low temperatures tonight will stay very muggy south of that front. You can see 82 in St. Louis for the low, and more heat and humidity tomorrow, but it is turning cooler across the Great Lakes into the northeast. There's a jet stream, and as you can see, it's kind of zonal, but we go back to that trough developing in the Great Lakes this weekend into the northeast early next week, and the ridge building again out west, and that just kind of goes back and forth across the Corn Belt. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We'll head to Casper, Wyoming. First of all, partly sunny, very warm, high of 91 degrees. Vandalia, Illinois, hot and humid with sun and clouds mixed, high of 95. And Montpelier, Vermont, partly sunny and comfortable. The afternoon high around 78.
Up next, we'll check on the produce business with help from our friends over at the Packer. And later, we're off to Tennessee to see how these dedicated doctors are helping victims of wildfire recover.
Ag Day is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.
California's almond growers are expecting a bigger crop this year. The Almond Board of California says the Ag Department is projecting a 2.2 billion pound crop. The most recent forecast is 2.3% above estimates in May, and it's 5% higher than last year's production. The Almond Board says the estimates are based on 1 million bearing acres. And USDA is buying out blueberries in Maine for the second year in a row. According to Politico, USDA is making a $10 million purchase of surplus in an effort to stabilize prices. The department will buy frozen wild berries from processors and distribute them to food banks and other charitable organizations. The price is at its lowest level in a decade. Now, when we come back, a look at wildfires and a little help for four-legged friends that lost their homes in Tennessee last summer.
Are you a game changer? Know someone who is? Chevron is searching for those people that have made an impact on the industry. Share your nominee at chevrondello.com/gamechangers. Dello, let's go further. In the country. Sponsored by Kubota's full line of field-proven hay tools. Explore the full lineup at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
It's really a hardship for people with the fire being so close to the flood within just months of all this disaster in this one area. I don't know. It's really hard when you got to load everything up, your family, and just leave and not know where you're going. So thank God nobody got injured or hurt, or killed. And we lost homes, but we're able to go back home.
Wilsey returned to his ranch home in Oroville, California on Monday, relieved to learn it had been spared by the wildfire, the second major disaster this year. 5 months ago, a damaged spillway at a nearby dam threatened his home as well. Now, dozens of homes have been destroyed in that fire, fueled by recent rains and growing vegetation. Meanwhile, fires continue to burn in Southern California, across the West, including Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico. It's been more than half a year since wildfires destroyed much of Gatlinburg and surrounding areas in Tennessee. The rebuilding goes on, and as Charles Denny with the UT Institute of Agriculture shows us, that includes teams at the College of Veterinary Medicine helping animals injured by the fires.
Yeah, it was like driving through the streets of hell coming down the mountain because trees were falling, everything was on fire.
The words of Katrina Cannon as she escaped the Gatlinburg fires from November. Katrina lost just about everything except her pal Topper. The cat suffered burns on his paws and skin, but was brought back to health at the UT College of Veterinary Medicine after a month in the intensive care unit. Here Topper has a reunion with his caregivers.
I couldn't say thank you enough, and I love them for it. And, he's here today because of them. I've got my baby back because of them, and I'm just beyond grateful. Just beyond grateful.
While animal life doesn't compare to the human tragedy, UT-CVM doctors say it was good to help our mountain-tough four-legged friends and their owners.
It was emotionally hard too, because, we all live in Knoxville, we love Gatlinburg, we love the Smokies, and it was hard knowing that this cat had owners who had lost everything in the fire.
All total, the UT College of Veterinary Medicine cared for 22 animals injured or displaced by the fires. That's 21 cats and one other remarkable patient. Charles the pig survived by burrowing in the ground.
Charles was wonderful. He was very relaxed and he let us care for him really well.
Charles had respiratory problems from the smoke and burns on his belly and feet. But clearly a smart animal, he was a good patient and soon was walking again and his burns were healing.
Yeah, as you said, this is not just about helping the animal. It's also the people that care for this animal. So in a situation like the fire in Gatlinburg, which is very sad, of course, being able to just do something, it may be a small piece.
There was some joy at UT-CVM following the fires, reunions with pets and owners bonded by survival. Like the mountains they call home, these animals are scarred but still standing. The saying in these parts is mountain tough, and it's a term that doesn't just apply to people. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles. Now UT veterinarians report Topper and Charles are both back at home. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Start your day with us. For Mike Hoffman and Tyne Morgan, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in farm country.
Ag Day is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest lasting pickups.